3 things you may not know about knee pain but are so important to deal with it. Briefly for you to understand, this is the knee, which, as you know, is quite flexible, and here is the large thigh muscle, which runs over the kneecap and is attached here. It is basically responsible for the knee movement. And at the back is the large calf, the gastrocnemius muscle. And these 2 parts, they go over the knee joint, and they bend the knee, and in between are the frequently mentioned menisci, which can tear and so on. Number 1, this point may be very surprising to you, because it has been shown that in most cases of knee pain, no matter where it hurts on the knee, the damage such as arthritis, the wearing away of cartilage, or meniscus injuries like tears are not responsible for knee pain in most cases. Now you may be wondering, well, what is responsible for that? And that brings us to the next point. Number 2, usually too much tension in this muscle is responsible. We had already said earlier, this muscle goes over here, up to here, and it straightens the knee. And now you can imagine that if this muscle has too much tension, it pulls the lower leg higher and tighter against the joint, against the other side, so to speak, as if it has normal tension. And we believe that this tension in the muscle, this pulling upwards, with the pressure that arises in the joint, is one of the most common causes. Now, you don't have to believe me right away, you just have to try it. And that's why we are now doing the exercises that will prove to you, no matter what kind of damage is there, whether your pain is related to this excessive tension or not. And our favorite exercise with which you can try it out is the front thigh exercise. Because the front thigh, when it has too much tension, and we stretch it now, then it has less tension. And then you can feel in your knee and check whether that changes anything with your pain or not. Example number 1, you go into the position, best to join in right away, so you can try and compare it directly. Look, place your shins next to the edge of your mat, or if you're doing it on the carpet, then on the carpet, whatever, and then try to get your ankle as close to the ground as possible as far as it goes, and then try to get your buttocks as close as possible to your heel. And if you can reach your heel, then go directly for it. If you still have a little distance, then stay at that distance, which creates just enough tension here, or even noticeable in the knee, that you can still comfortably tolerate. And then, no matter at what angle the knee stretch takes place, you slowly move your torso back. When moving back, it's important to pull your navel back as well, because this causes the pelvis to move along with it. Otherwise, you might make the mistake of leaving the pelvis in place and overextending above the pelvis. That would not trigger the stretch we need, and that's why you have to do this tilt, which I am showing here with my hand. You will immediately notice that much greater tension is applied here. And then you go in, do that for 2 minutes, and after about a minute you start with our special strength training. That means while you stretch your leg, you also press your foot against the floor. Yes, press really hard for about 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds, relax. And then you notice you can move the pelvis further back and come a little deeper with the torso. And then, in this way, you hold this tension for 2 to 2.5 minutes, always keeping it at the level that you would still consider a comfortably painful feeling, right? It should never reach the point where you have to stop the exercise because it's too unbearable. It should be a positive sensation. A little bit of discomfort is necessary, but it has to be a pleasant, just barely tolerable kind of discomfort. And afterward, you slowly come out of the stretch, extend your leg a little, take a few steps, and let the swelling settle. The next great exercise for your knee is to lie on your stomach and pull your foot towards your buttocks with your hand. But you have to do it if your muscles are already relaxed, otherwise you won't be able to reach it. And in order to still reach it, many bend their leg, then grab the foot and try to bring the knee back down. But the important thing with the exercise is that the groin is firmly on the ground the whole time. And if that muscle is too tight, you won't be able to do it. Then you can pull your foot towards your buttocks, but you can no longer bring your groin down, and as a result, one of the main effects is practically no longer present. And therefore, please do it differently. Without a loop, it is only possible to do this exercise by hand if you can grip loosely without raising your hip. If that doesn't work, the stretch won't be as efficient. And that's why you should take a belt or our stretching strap and put it around the foot so that it holds well. And now you can do the following. Look, you can now relax completely and press the groin firmly against the floor and then start pulling the foot towards the buttocks. And then it is a really great exercise. It even has the advantage over the one shown first, that you first straighten the leg and then pull the foot towards you. In the other exercise, you first pull the foot towards the buttocks and then involve the hip. And this is more demanding and difficult to implement. So if you are completely new, then it's best to do it like this. Now there is another thing that will boost this exercise. And indeed you can take our Knee Hero, or you can also take a few books that have the appropriate height. And then you raise your knee a little higher. But be careful, you should only raise your knee as much as you can maintain full contact between your groin and the floor. And then you start to pull slowly here. And when you do that, you will immediately notice that it stretches much, much more than if you did not raise your knee. Then the effect is much, much better. And while doing this exercise, you should also do strength training, increase the intensity for 2 minutes, and start at about 1 minute to straighten the leg while pressing the groin against the floor. And relax and then intensify the stretch again. And press the leg as tightly as possible, as if you wanted to stretch it, then release it and pull it in further. I would not recommend doing this exercise while standing. This is done in other systems standing up. And then you grab your foot and pull it towards your buttocks. This feels wrong to me in 90% of cases. Why? Because automatically, since you're tight in the hip flexors and the muscles in the front, you unconsciously move the knee slightly forward. And then it is easier to grab the foot, just like here, when I was lying on my stomach and bent the hip. And then the exercise may only be worth 20% of its effectiveness. And that's why, please use the floor as a guideline to check precisely whether your knee is in front of the hip, on the hip line, or if it's elevated, even behind the hip line. And the further behind the hip line it is, the better, because then the effect always becomes greater. Just remember, only elevate the knee as high as possible while keeping the groin truly on the ground so that you have a solid contact point there. All of this guarantees the effectiveness of the exercise. What would completely interest me is, did you know this? Did you know that it's usually the tensions in the muscles and fascia that are responsible for the pain? And were you aware that these exercises help release these tensions and gradually diminish the pain? After doing this routine several times, you can ask yourself, did the knees already get better? And please forward this video to everyone who is also dealing with knee pain. The older people get, the more they suffer from it, and will be very happy if they have a way to do something to relieve their pain. And if it works, and they start feeling better, well, all the better. Or do the exercise with them, show them this great possibility they have to relieve their pain. That's just super fun. And if the result is good, then it's even more fun. And that brings us to number 3, Perhaps you already suspect it, but it has been shown that the calf muscle, the gastrocnemius, the one that gives your calf its shape, yes, the one I just explained that crosses over the knee, is responsible for knee pain about as often as the muscle we just discussed. Again, why? Look, the Achilles tendon goes up here and transfers all this force into the calf up to and beyond the knee joint. And when we sit, we are always sitting at this angle. What happens to the calf? It is totally shortened and too tightly stretched in most people. And if the tension is too high, the calf muscle naturally pulls the thigh bone against the lower leg. So this also increases the pressure in the joint, and we consider this to be a cause of the pain, namely due to the excessive tension of the muscles, particularly the calf. Which lovely stretching exercise is now suitable to stretch this calf to reduce this tension? Go against the wall, bring the foot back, and now very, very important, do not turn the foot outward. The mistake is made by many, many people. Take the foot, it's like a cone, yes, step on it, it's a cone, meaning an angle like this. Take the middle of this angle, and you'll roughly end up at the middle toe. This line from the center of the heel to the middle toe must stand perpendicular to the wall. That means that would be too far out, that would be too far in, that would be correct. And then you stretch your leg completely, bring the other foot slightly forward, and can now increase the tension on the calf by bending the left leg, the left knee, bit by bit. And then you notice it pulls directly below the knee joint in the upper calf. And you do this for 1 minute so that you can still bear it well, and then you press as hard as possible with the forefoot against the ground and do our valuable strength training. You press fully against it without the heel lifting and without the knee bending. You must remain fully extended, relieve again, relax again, let go, and continue into the stretch until 2 to 2.5 minutes have passed. And the whole thing is also possible to do without holding onto a wall. There is not always a wall there in the desert, for example. Then do the following. Stand with your right foot back. Let's demonstrate it on the right side in such a way that you notice, oh, that's already pulling a bit. Step forward with your left foot so far that you stand stable. Make sure that the foot does not point outwards, as already explained. Fully extend the knee and now go down and release the stretch again. In this variation, it is super important because you don't have the wall to push against, so it is super important that you press as firmly as possible against the ground with the forefoot and at the same time straighten the knee. Then you relax again and go further in. Press as hard as possible against the ground during strength training, relax, and push further in. Also the 2 to 2.5 minutes. And now I'll show you the turbo boost for this exercise with our knee hero. Look, you go into the corner of your choice so that when you go forward with your pelvis, you have the knee fully extended and you are with the pelvis about above the knee joint, above your foot, then you should already have a clear stretch in the upper calf. And now the whole thing becomes very, very clear, very, very intense, and the more intense, the better the effect. By holding yourself back a bit, you can also hold onto the wall. You can also do it freestanding. But for safety and precise adjustment, I prefer holding onto something. Then you can totally concentrate on going into the right intensity. You relieve your left foot so that the full weight is on the right foot. The loop on the knee hero prevents you from slipping down, even if it is set very steep. And now you bring your pelvis forward until you can just bear it well. And here you do the same. Stretch for a minute. Always stay at this level of intensity. And during strength training, push with the forefoot and try to rise the right toe, which won't work because all your weight is on it and you're in a fully extended, stretched position where there's usually no strength. And that's where we're bringing strength, which is the valuable part of this exercise. Relax again, continue with the pelvis forward and do it again. And now I'll show you something else. By the way, I forgot to mention, you can of course also place a few books or something else underneath so that your forefoot is elevated. And then you can do the following. Go as far forward as you can, and then keeping your back straight, bend at the hip joint. You'll notice that the stretch from the upper calf goes into the back of the knee and into the back leg. And then you further extend this line of tension. The strength training would be the same. You'll find that when you do this variation, there's hardly a more intense stretch for all these areas that, in our opinion, are responsible for most knee pain. And then you will be able to walk or maybe run a bit again. And most patients say afterwards, wow, that feels so light. And if you stretch here now and stretch the calf, meaning reducing the pull from above and from below, feel it for yourself and be surprised by what happens next. If you would like to have more exercises against knee pain and would like to try them, then please click here, go there and try them out. Try studying them. And if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe now and also activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. There could be something interesting in our channel for you. Goodbye until next time.